Oh, discovering my sexuality was strange. I knew from quite an early age that I was a bit different from other girls and boys, and sometimes I felt a little bit ashamed when I was in secondary school because other kids in the secondary school would always say things like "oh, queer" or "lesbos" or something like that, and it did kind of make me feel a bit introverted. So certainly when I was at secondary school I knew I was different, but I didn't really know how to articulate that, and so I guess I played the game quite a lot in terms of trying to have boyfriends and trying to be normal, and it was only after I left secondary school really that things changed for me. Coming out for me was quite a dramatic experience, and basically it happened at university, because the wonderful thing about university is that you leave behind previous institutions and previous family setups, and there's a lot more freedom when you're at university to explore yourself and discover what you're really about. And for me, that meant meeting lots of new people, and still having these feelings of a strong attraction towards women. And I met someone, and I fell in love with her. And I guess I had the courage whilst I was at university, because there was so much going on and so much change and diversity of things, that I had the courage to actually say to her, I think there's something going on. And so it happened, and I then realised that there was this was going on for a whole lot of other people in the university, other students, and this was back in the early 1980s, and that was a time when gay pride was just beginning to take off, and so in fact we were quite visible. I was a feminist at that time, and there was quite a strong political agenda for women's self-determination, women's emancipation, and tied together with that was the politicisation of being gay. And so it was really quite a supportive environment to be in, and this was at the University of Cambridge, bastion of tradition. And yet, we had hundreds of gay students, and we were going out on marches, we were being political. So this is over 30 years ago. I suppose what I'm saying was, even then, there were supportive communities of gay people if you knew where to find them. So in terms of being at Sheffield, I've been here for nearly a year now, having moved up from the south, and I'm very open about my sexuality and the fact that I have a civil partnership, and I live in a part of Sheffield which has a lot of gay people in it, up south of Heeley, in the Mersbrook area, and so that feels very supportive as a place to live. In terms of the university, I think I'd have to say that at the moment lesbian and gay issues haven't been particularly visible, and I wasn't aware of any networks within the university for staff, any LGBT networks, and so I think probably the university's got a little bit more to do there to show that in fact there are plenty of us around, plenty of gay people around, and also to show that the university is very welcoming to everyone, no matter what their sexuality. So I'd say within the department, I think it's been great. Staff are fine. It's just treated as completely normal. I don't feel myself to be treated any differently from anybody else, and that's the way it ought to be. In terms of what's helped me being in Sheffield and being out, I think Sheffield is a very, very warm city. And when I first came here as a student over 30 years ago, I remember coming up from London and getting on a bus in Sheffield, and a man said to the bus driver, "How are you, love?" and that was really unusual for me to hear one man call another man love. And I suddenly thought there was a different kind of language being used up here, and I realised that actually, in a lot of ways, Sheffield is quite what I'd call quite a soft city, as well as being a very gritty city. And people up here in Sheffield are very kind, very gentle, and there's a very kind of supportive feeling socially. It's a very social city. And so I've always felt the city is a good place to be gay, and certainly when I was a gay student here, I felt a huge amount of support from the city, because there were very strong lesbian and gay communities within the city that I was part of. Probably more part of that than anything within the university at that time. So I think the city's tremendous, and today, there's a lot of things going on in the city for gay and lesbian people. So I think the city's good. The university today, in terms of supporting gay and lesbian people and other sexualities, again, I'd have to say it's not as maybe not as open as some other universities I've been in, so maybe we've got a bit more work to do there. There doesn't seem to be the same level of awareness about the issue, but I'm sure we'll get there. Oh, what would I have missed about not coming out? I would have missed me. I would have missed who I am. So coming out was probably the most important thing in my life, really, because it defines who I am. And it makes me feel completely authentic about myself and completely at home with myself. And I think I'd spent a long time, I'd probably spent 18 years of my early life not feeling comfortable with myself. So it's just a huge relief to be able to say, this is who I am, this is what I want to be. And really it felt like coming home. If I was to go back in time and say something to my younger self, I think to my younger self as a teenager, I would have said, it's alright to have these feelings, they're perfectly natural, and you're no different really to anyone else. And if I was to go back to myself as an angry 20-year-old who was being very political and campaigning, I would say, show tolerance. Show tolerance for other people's ignorance. Show tolerance for any kind of diversity. Because basically sexuality is about diversity, in the same way that in nature we need to support biodiversity in order to ensure that humanity and the planet flourishes. In terms of our sexuality, we also need to support diversity, because if we end up with a monoculture, then actually we're sowing the seeds of our own destruction. So I would say to my younger self, this is not about being one thing or another thing. It's about sitting on a continuum of sexual diversity. So nowadays, I suppose in my middle age, I'd say I'm not so interested in labels about whether someone's gay or not, but just in where that person chooses to be on a spectrum of sexuality.